Today's devotion is based on Genesis 24, the longest chapter in the book of Genesis, so I encourage you to read it on your own. It is part of the past Sunday's lectionary, and it's commonly known as the story of Rebecca at the well. The lectionary reading was Genesis 24, 34 through 38, 42 through 49, and 58 through 67, but that excludes a lot of the story. When we open up with the story, Sarah has died, and Abraham may be on his deathbed. He sent a servant to find a wife for his son Isaac. He has the servant swear that the last not be a Canaanite, but be from Abraham's people. The consequence for failing to abide by the oath are either sterility or the loss of children to the servant. The servant asks, though, having sworn this oath, what happens if he can't find a young lady willing to come with him? Abraham says at that point he'll be absolved from the oath, but under no circumstances is he to bring a Canaanite woman back with him. Now, of all the characters in the story, the dying Abraham, the lonely Isaac, who has lost his mother and is wondering just what was going on with his father in the wilderness when he tried to kill him, Rebecca, who would be going to a strange country to marry a cousin she'd never met, and Bethuel, her father, on losing his daughter, the one I feel the most sympathy for was this unnamed servant of Abraham, who'd been entrusted with finding a suitable woman to continue the Abrahamic genealogy. Just walking into a strange town, how do you know just by looking at a woman that she's a Canaanite or not, if she's single or not, of good breeding or not, and of high moral character or not? What if he chose a woman who was of Abraham's tribe, single, well-bred, and of good moral character, and Isaac hated her, or she hated Isaac? Of course, it was a time of arranged marriages. The mere fact that the servant was sent to find a bride for Isaac tells us that. Love was, quite nice was not expected. Fertility was, and this really seems to be an issue with the family, but fertility was an issue. Yet here was a servant who had sworn an oath to find a suitable wife in an unknown country with people he didn't know for his master's son. What could possibly go wrong? Well, obviously a lot can go wrong. However, before the young girls came out to get water at the well, the servant did something that we should do when we're faced with hard decisions or don't know what to do. He prayed. Specifically, he prayed for a sign. He prayed that when he asked a maiden for a drink of water from the jug, that she would give it to him and offer to water his camels. There were 10 camels total. Not only was this an act of incredible kindness, because camels can drink on average between 5 and 30 gallons of water, it was also an act of strength and health, because you're toting a water jug that weighs in at roughly 50 pounds. At this point, you're going 50 pounds times 10 camels, and that's like the minimum dosage of water. My gosh, the woman lifts. Now, perhaps the servant wanted something to distinguish between the ladies. Maybe most would have given him a sip of water, but how many would be willing to tote at least 500 pounds worth of water for camels, assuming they weren't all that thirsty? Maybe the servant didn't even think about the lifting involved to water the camels, since toting water was women's work. Still, he needed help and guidance, which God provided him. He saw an attractive young lady who gave him water and who watered the camels. After discovering she was kin and single, he knew God had pointed her out to him. He tells the story twice, once to Rebecca and once to her family, as to his mission, and then he puts a gold ring in her nose and gold bracelets on her arms and asks to meet the family to see if he could take her with him. The servant relayed the story again to the family. Initially, he dealt with Laban, who was Rebecca's brother and Rebekah's mother, and they negotiated a bride price. But the next morning, the father got involved and asked her to remain another 10 days. It's important to note that Rebekah agreed to go. She was asked if she would be willing to marry Isaac. Insofar as customs go, it was a pretty liberated thing that she could say whether she came or went. She chose to go. Her family sent her away with a maid and their blessing. She met and married Isaac and didn't always live happily ever after. Their sons would see to that. However, she was a great comfort to her husband, and he loved her. In real life, we don't always live happily ever after. However, love can help with a lot of things. Now, this story teaches us a number of things that have nothing to do with lifting weights and watering camels. If you have no idea what you're doing or what kind of decision to make, pray about it. If you still aren't clear, keep praying for guidance, wisdom, and discernment. Be aware of your surroundings because God is sending you clear signals that you may be ignoring. Sometimes we can't see what's there unless someone else points it out to us. If you do get an answer, pray about it. Thank God for showing you the way, of giving you an answer, of providing you with discernment. We're quick to ask, but slow to think. Another thing the story teaches us is to do good to others, specifically more than is asked for. If Rebekah had rejected the servant's request for a sip of water from the jar, or had only given him the water and failed to offer the water to the camels, she wouldn't have been asked to marry Isaac. Thank you next, as it were. How many of the girls gave the servant a sip of water but did not offer to water the camels? When you see the potential to do good, do more than the minimum if you can. It rarely hurts to go above and beyond in doing good for others. Be compassionate and gracious to others. It also teaches us that blessings come to us when we are going about our everyday lives. The evening Rebekah went to fetch water was undoubtedly an evening like any other. The servant sent to find Isaac a wife had spent his career doing the best job he could for his employer. God puts us in situations which may not seem important to us, but may be critical to others. Blessings come in our daily life. Let us be a blessing for others. Amen.
Amen.